So this week I was talking to one of my subscribers and he asked me to make a video on how introverts can shine at work. Now this is a very valid question because research shows that extroverts who are the opposite of introverts are 25% more likely to get hired. So if you think you are an introvert, watch this video till the end because in this video I will be sharing with you 3 tips and a bonus tip which will help you in your job hunting efforts and also help you in excelling at your current job. And if you're not sure whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, this video will still help you because we will be covering the definitions of both these terms. My name is Jamil Hai and I've been working in the corporate sector for the last 18 years. My passion is to help you build real life skills for your job and career that they don't teach you in college. Let's first get the definitions out of the way. Now, if you Google introverts and extroverts, you will find a lot of definitions online, but they can be misleading. As an example, a lot of times the word introvert is explained as someone who is shy. Now that might not be entirely true. So one of the best definitions I have come across is that introverts are people who like to direct their energy inwards, energy to their thoughts, self-reflection, reading, thinking process, and so on and so forth. On the contrary, extroverts are people who like to direct their energy outwards, which means they find energy in people, socialization, going out, socializing, and so on. And therefore, extroverts are people who are seen as outgoing or people persons. They feel comfortable in working with groups. They have a wide range of friends and know lots of people. Now, because of their style, they might jump too quickly into activities without thinking them through. And therefore, at times, they might jump into an action without being very clear on the objectives and the why. On the contrary, introverts are seen as reflective or reserved. They feel comfortable being alone and like things which they can do on their own. They just prefer to know a few people, but then have very strong and meaningful relationships with them. Introverts sometimes could spend too much time self-reflecting and they might not move too quickly into an action. And they might sometimes forget to validate their ideas with the outside world as well. And therefore, in a nutshell, extroverts may be sometimes seen as too action-oriented, while introverts are seen as thought-oriented. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes actions are rewarded more than thoughts. However, it's absolutely fine to be an introvert. And if you have any doubt about that, always remember that Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft and the famous philanthropist, is an introvert. Another great example is Larry Page, who is the co-founder of Google and the mastermind behind the famous search engine, is also an introvert. And lastly, keep your political biases aside, but being an introvert did not stop Joe Biden from becoming the US president. Now, one of the challenges that introverts face with job hunting is that a lot of times the jobs advertised would use adjectives like sociable, outgoing, and so on, which are opposite to the qualities of typical introverts. And this problem gets worse when you see that the extrovert behavior sometimes get rewarded even more. So you may have seen an example where the person who talks the most on the team sometimes gets the promotion faster, or he might get rewarded in other ways. And that can be very disengaging for all the introverts around. And this is a feeling which is very close to my heart because I even consider myself as an introvert, and the tips I'm about to share with you is something which I've learned the hard way through the course of my career. So how can introverts fight back? The first tip is treat networking as a mission. This is not something that comes naturally to us as introverts, and I learned this the hard way, trust me. I always used to see networking as a burden. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to connect with so many people? But this is super important because as an introvert, you would probably have some great ideas, but there is no point on having them if those ideas are not visible to the right people in the organization. So make sure that networking is something which you put as a task on your list. Make sure that you have made a list of important people in the organization that you want to connect with and put it on your to-do list today. Now, the same thing applies if you're looking for a job. Simply applying for the job is not sufficient. Each time you find a job and you have applied for it, try to find out who is in the HR department, who is in the functional department that you are applying for. For example, if you are applying for a marketing job, who is the marketing director of that company? Try to reach out to them on LinkedIn and don't get bogged down by the lack of response. Even if 5% of the people are responding to you, that's enough, because remember, you need to get it right once. It's about finding that one breakthrough that will help you land your job. So make sure that you are being very intentional about networking. And I've made a special video on this topic of networking, and if you have not watched that video, you can find the link somewhere over here. So the next tip is, do not underestimate your listening skills. Introverts are naturally good listeners, and this is a huge advantage you have on your side. Because in the business world, you will find a lot of people who are good speakers, but not a lot of people who are good listeners. In fact, it's said that the most influential business leaders are the ones who are good listeners. So this is a huge advantage for introverts. So make sure that you leverage it properly. As an example, if you are sitting in a meeting where someone is presenting, listen carefully to all the content, and then at the end, ask an insightful question. Sometimes a bit intimidating as an introvert that you are not asking any questions in the beginning, or you are getting a bit embarrassed because a lot of other questions are being asked and you are kind of quiet. That's absolutely fine, because in a lot of cases you might be asking a much more insightful question which will help you build your reputation with the rest of the organization. So the third tip is, build strong individual relationships. While introverts would naturally shy away from dealing with a lot of people, conversely, they are very strong at building strong one-to-one relationships. One of my colleagues in my previous job was a classical introvert, highly knowledgeable guy, very technically sound, but whenever he was asked to even present to a group of 10 people, he would shy away. However, his one-on-one coaching style was phenomenal, and therefore anyone who interacted with him or got an opportunity to have that one-to-one coaching with him would really speak highly of his coaching skills, and he also enjoyed very strong relationships with almost everybody in the organization. So although he was very afraid to deal with too many people at the same time, but that did not become a barrier for him to build a strong relationship with the organization in a more individual manner. And finally, the bonus tip is about virtual jobs. With the rise of the pandemic, there is an explosion in the virtual jobs. And I think this is a fantastic situation for all the introverts around, because virtual jobs typically take away all the stuff which introverts are normally nervous about, like presenting to large crowds, doing a lot of socialization, and so on. And on the contrary, there are a lot of tools available for you to leverage your introverted skills. So in a nutshell, virtual jobs are a fantastic way for introverts to shine. A couple of key pointers there to consider would be to have a stellar LinkedIn profile. This is a great tool for introverts because instead of introducing yourself to a large group of people, which can be uncomfortable, you can have a LinkedIn profile which properly covers your achievements and experiences online. You should also practice your elevator pitch. Now, what is elevator pitch? It's basically a short paragraph which you can prepare about yourself, which shows the great work you have done in the least possible words. So if you have prepared and rehearsed your elevator pitch, it helps you introduce yourself very efficiently in a virtual setting. And finally, leverage your deep thoughts in the content you prepare. In case of virtual jobs, a lot of times your content is more visible to people than yourself. And therefore, introverts who are mostly deep thinkers can prepare very insightful slides or other form of content which can represent their deep thoughts in a very effective way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about this topic or any of the other topics on which I make my videos, please do reach out to me on social media, and do not forget to subscribe. Keep watching.